It's the end of period 6 here at Vindolanda, and we're really starting to piece together the evidence from the 3rd and 4th century occupation of the site. We can now tell a story of how these people used this space. We have at least 3 separate barracks and 1 very special building at the front. I'm going to walk you through our most recent discoveries. I'm standing right now in the middle of what in the 3rd century would have been a very traditional infantry barrack. You can see almost identical buildings just behind me in the northwestern quadrant. A traditional infantry barrack is formed by several small rooms called contubernia. They have space for 8 men to sleep and live in there. But in the 4th century, we know that the contubernia are modified, and at Vindolanda, the people who used to live in the extramural settlement move inside the fort walls. So we know that these are modified and extended and expanded to become space for nuclear families to live in. These are the limitani, the people who are permanently based on the frontier. One of our aims and objectives was to figure out whether the northern side of the fort was dedicated to infantry, and it seems so far that it is. Crossing the road, we find our very special building. It's a very interesting structure that we uncovered over the last 3 periods. In previous videos, we've explored how this east-west oriented, narrow, rectangular building was changing shape between the early and the late 4th century. We also uncovered a lovely floor for it, which had a rather lovely phallic symbol carved onto it. And we were wondering what exactly is the function of this building. For the last 4 weeks, we've had our friends from Saxion University attending a field school here, and they have done a marvelous job of cleaning this structure. And we found out that the oven that we had originally identified is a lot more complex than we first thought. And the building itself is a lot more interesting than just a narrow, straight building with an oven on one side. We've excavated the chamber of the oven, and we found a really lovely cavity that reaches underneath a flagged floor. So unlike normal ovens where the heat would have been free-flowing into the space that would have cooked the food, here the heat actually warmed up the flags and things were cooked above them. So almost like a modern day pizza oven. But this would have been a nice food outlet for the people of the 4th century to purchase their snacks. And we know that it probably would have had an awning, a little stall, a little shop front, which can be identified by the small postals that are found on the Via Principalis. So here, here, and here as well, we've got 3 little postals that would have formed a perfect base for a lean-to, leaning onto the outer wall of this building. So you could either purchase your snacks on the go while on the Via Principalis, or you could enter through the door behind the oven in the blistering heat and go and sit inside perhaps. But it's really interesting because it forms a picture of life in the 4th century here at Vindolanda as something that's a little bit more complex than just a military fort. Some facilities that used to be in the extramural settlement have moved inside the boundaries of the fort. So we've mentioned 3 separate barracks and 1 special building. We've seen the infantry barrack, originally dating to the 3rd century and modified into chalet barrack in the 4th century. We've seen our lovely bakery and food outlet, and now we are in the 3rd barrack building. Unfortunately, the 3rd room of this barrack has been taken out by the Victorian rubber trench, but 2 more rooms have survived in really good condition. And this is our occasion to check our understanding of this strange, smaller, square-roomed barracks against the 1980s excavation by Paul Bidwell. And what we have found out is that there is at least 2, if not more, layers of flooring within each room of each barrack. The survival of the walls is outstanding. We have up to 5 courses of stone wall, and we're only in the 4th century, so we can only wonder at the beautiful preservation that awaits for us below these layers. A really fabulous find, Leslie. A beautiful nail cleaning strap end. The proper name for one of these is a chatelaine set. It would hang from a belt or a strap with a lot of other accessories. So tell us a little bit about finding this. Where did you find it?
I found it in the robber's trench. Kate and myself were excavating a long section of rubble and soil, and the stone structures were missing. But there were lots of finds in that area, and the ground was quite wet underneath the surface, and the soil was dark, but the sun was shining. And as I cleared away the soil with the trowel, I just saw a chink of very bluey green in the soil, just a few millimeters. And from the training you gave me, I knew I had to slow down and go very carefully. And I first exposed the ring, which is like our key ring in many ways. But the exciting part was that it was attached to something. But it's a lovely design because I presume that broad area is possibly where you hold it.
Yeah, just how you hold it and then you push it in. Yeah. So it's really beautifully preserved. Our Victorian friends didn't much care for finds. What they were there for was the stones. And this was found in line with the 4th century barracks. And so probably that's where it comes from. Because, as I said, these guys tossed right back in everything that they found. We had some beautiful pieces of pottery, some beautiful pieces of bone.
Yes.
And, you know, this little thing, wonderful. So probably a 4th century piece, really well preserved, probably one of a set, but only this little guy survives. So
it's a much better implement for cleaning your nails than I have in my bathroom cabinet.
Got a few extra little pieces that we'll be adding to our collection here. We've got something that is going to go straight in the stonework. So this is a beautiful portable altar. You can see there is a little rim there and a sort of blank space here, and there's a dimple at the top, which could have been used for a light or to make small offerings. This little altar would have been something that someone would have used for their personal worship. Probably wasn't dedicated to a specific god, but it might have been used to do sacrifice or raise prayers to a multitude of gods within the same household. And finally, this is a very elaborate piece of a scabbard shape. Very lovely, nicely decorated. It is only a fragment. The complete piece would have been a little bit larger. But we do find these quite a bit. A scabbard shape is a piece of ornate decoration that you stick on your leather container for your sheathed weapons, so you don't stab yourself in the thigh as you're carrying around your knife or your sword. From our incredible drone footage, you'll be able to see that we are leaving you on a cliffhanger. We have just uncovered the next barrack wall, and most of the barrack still lies under the grass. We are going to take a break now, and we're going to pass the baton for July and August to our colleagues at Magna, so you will receive regular updates from them, and we will come back with period 7 of Vindolanda in the very last week of August until the first week of September. Our goal is to reach the fence or get as close to it as possible. We have until 2028 to complete the excavation of this quadrant and of the ditch that potentially exists to the east of the fort wall. So we really have quite a lot of things to do, and we look forward sharing them with you in September.